Hello, today on the Bioanxiety podcast, we have the lovely Sadie, who is a critical care nurse here in New York. And you've been a nurse for quite a while, right?
I have been a nurse, for over 5.5 years now.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is. It feels like it, yeah.
Well, I will let you take it off because it's your story.
Okay. I've been a nurse for 5.5 years now. Mostly in New York City, also some stints in California as a travel nurse, but as a staff nurse as well here in the city. I moved here to New York City wanting to, work in a big city and work in a big hospital system, and that's what I've been able to do in a few different hospital systems. I knew as a kid I always wanted to go into medicine. Always thought I actually wanted to be a physician. That was like my goal since I was a kid. Nobody in my family's in medicine though, so I never talked to anybody else about that. I just thought if you want to be in medicine, you should be a doctor. So that was kind of my game plan. And then it was my last semester of my senior year of college when I was studying for the MCATs, which is like the entrance exam to med school. I had a gut feeling that I wasn't going the right path anymore, and I needed to take a moment and take a pause and kind of reevaluate. And that's when I realized that what I've been describing what I wanted to do is actually nursing, not being a physician. So took a step back, rerouted a little bit, graduated undergrad, went to get some prereqs, and then went to nursing school after that. And that's what brought me, to then move to New York City to pursue my dreams of like working in a big city and living here. So yeah.
So how come like critical care? There's like a lot of different fields, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I'm always someone who likes to critical think and think quickly on my feet. I think I'm good at that. I work well under pressure, and so I was always curious about either the emergency department or critical care. And then when I did my clinical rotations in nursing school, you get to see all different kinds of units with inpatient, outpatient, all kinds of stuff. And I really was drawn to the critical care unit. I felt like the nurses there, they have 1 to 2 patients and they knew everything about the patient, and they were the point of contact, to get all the biggest advocates for the patients, and like truly were a part of the team in deciding care and implementing care as well as giving recommendations and stuff. So I loved seeing how involved they were in the treatment plans with the patients. And I loved seeing them act quickly in emergencies. And so that's when I was like, I think this is what I want to do. So when I came to the city, new grads don't always get hired into critical care units, but I was able to find one actually, and that's where I started. So I've been working in critical care since then.
Yeah. How were those like first few months? Because I would be scared. Oh my god,
it was wild. Yeah, I think I'm someone who's just eager to jump in, and at that point, I was super eager to get going and start working. And so I had a wonderful preceptor who was kind of a badass and like really was someone who she'd been a nurse for, I don't know, 30 plus years. And so was really passionate about the field, but also really, really knowledgeable, was often teaching the residents and teaching other people she loves to teach. So I jumped right in, and it's definitely a trial by fire situation. But
a trial by fire.
yeah, like very, very much so. But I loved that. I wanted that. I'm like, this is what I worked for. I worked to be able to get hands on patients and like figure out what's going on and fix things and all that stuff. So I was super eager to do so. So stressful, but also knowing that if you don't know the answer, ask questions. I'm a big question asker. And so it was just like trying to absorb as much as possible and dive in. Yeah.
Nice. So when you initially decided that you wanted to go into medicine, like as you were graduating high school, how did you go about like deciding where you wanted to go to school, like looking for resources? Were you looking for something specific in a school or a program?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I always knew I wanted to go to med school, but I knew that I had to do undergrad first. So I seeked out my undergrad university as just somewhere that would have a pre-med program of some kind, but nothing in particular about the medicine. I kind of was looking for the whole college experience, and that's what narrowed down my choices for university. So it wasn't they had a pre-med program, but it wasn't necessarily. I actually majored in psychology and neuroscience with like a pre-med emphasis. So it kind of gave me the freedom to study other stuff, but also get in the classes I would need to get into med school. So that's kind of the route that I took. But I wasn't searching specifically for any kind of university that had a really intensive pre-med program, just something that I knew I would get my requirements for it.
What's been your favorite part about being a nurse so far?
So far, oh man, I love multiple things. I mean, I love the advocacy. I think you are your patient's biggest advocate. I'm with them the most out of anybody else on the unit, um, and I really take pride in that. And I feel really honored to be with people um, at that time, and they're very vulnerable and stressful time in their life when they're out of control, like they don't have control over their life anymore. Um, so I really value that, and it's like the relationships I get to make with the patients and also with their friends and family. You know, when a lot of my patients aren't coherent enough, they're not awake enough to be able to have dialogue, so I'm usually interacting actually with family members more. Or if somebody doesn't have any family, again, being their biggest advocate because there's nobody else there to do it for them. So I'm really really value that role that I get to play for my patients.
That's so brave. I don't know how you do it. Like I admire it so much. Like I would be so emotional at all times.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. What about like how was so you became a nurse like when COVID hit, right?
right a year before COVID hit. Yeah,
Oh my God. How was that? Like,
yeah. That was wild. I was a novice nurse. I've been a nurse for a year when COVID started. I actually started March of 2019. And so a year later, COVID hit. And I remember I'd been off orientation for like 5 or 6 months. So I was still very much novice, but like getting my grips on things still. And um, it hit us, it was each day we would have a meeting at the beginning of the shift. Here's the updated things that we know about. And I remember anticipating our first patient that's going to be admitted. And I volunteered to be the first one to admit the first patient. So I was kind of eager. I was like, this is our reality. It's coming our way. And I was kind of eager to get in there and see what it's like to interact with these patients. It was wild because then in the beginning we didn't know anything about it. And so we would be in full blown like bunny suits. Everything would be covered with at least one layer of protective equipment. And so that was super interesting. And then it was wild because in the beginning it was I would sometimes be the only person to touch this other human being, sometimes before they pass away because visitors weren't allowed at that time. We didn't know enough. We wanted to protect everybody else too. So that was like that was a tough part of it, was just knowing that for some of these people it was so isolating for them, and they were only interacting with me. So I felt I carried a lot with that, knowing that I was the only one to like touch their body or talk with them sometimes in their last days. So that was a pretty wild thing to experience. And then I went from this novice nurse to then our ICU went from a 14 bed ICU, and we expanded to 3 other units because we had so many ICU level patients. We ended up having 34 beds spread across the hospital. And there was times when I was the charge nurse for all of those units. Like they needed someone to just like step up and lead in this like chaotic time. And I think I was young and eager to do whatever I could. So I raised my hand, and I think that I quickly I really enjoyed the opportunity to be a resource for other people to help navigate this like chaotic time. So yeah, so that was a wild couple of years in that world of just yeah, another dimension of our regular life. It felt like so.
I have so much respect for people in the medical field that I don't know how you guys do that. No, it's insane.
Yeah,
Like what we went through is insane. Like
yeah,
it's so insane to like think that we actually went through a pandemic,
yeah. It is.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago, we'd still be here wearing masks and not allowed near each other.
Yeah,
That's yeah, that's
wild.
insane.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know you quite well. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like you never get nervous.
Yeah.
But do you know like suffer from like work anxiety, like career anxiety when you're in there, like because it must be so nerve-wracking, especially
Mm-hmm.
during something like COVID when you guys added like 34 beds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you work very well under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But how was that? Like, how did you have like any fears? Like, did
Mm.
you like, yeah.
It was interesting. I felt like when the pandemic hit, I don't know if I had a lot of fear, but I could see it in my peers. So I think I tried to be a good example for like for the patients as well, to help keep them comfortable and as calm as possible, as well as my peers that I worked with, because there were some people that were. I'm fortunate I don't have any other pre-existing health concerns that would have made me more susceptible. I worked with people that did, and they didn't want to go in these rooms because it was risking their life, and they weren't willing to do that anymore. And I respect that. So I don't think I had a lot of fear then. It was interesting now that I'm reflecting on that. I think I was just kind of like quickly accepting that this is our new reality, and I just signed up to be a nurse, and this is what a part of taking care of patients is like taking care of really sick patients in wild situations, crazy situations sometimes. I would say for like fear or anxiety things, I've definitely been feeling it more recently now that I've been bedside for 5.5 years, starting to get that itch to like transition my career or pivot a little bit, but not knowing what to do with that. And that I think is where I'm having some anxiety, is trying to decide what I want to do and like planning for my future. I think in the ICU, a lot of nurses will get the ICU time in to then go on to graduate school, like CRNA, which is like a certified registered nurse anesthetist. So that's like another program, and you have to have ICU experience for that. Mm-hmm. So I see people coming in for a few years, and then they'll transition to grad school in different capacities, whether it's CRNA or nurse practitioner degrees or education. And so I've now been in units long enough that I've seen people come and go, and so that's been interesting. And I'm definitely recently been getting, wondering what does my move want to be. Some people want to stay bedside their whole career. I think I really respect that. I never saw that for myself, so I'm trying to discover what it is I do see for myself. I think something in leadership. I've always felt like I've been a natural born leader, and I really appreciate the opportunity to help lead and guide and support other people. Um, and so that's something I'm considering. So that's kind of where my anxieties are with work, is feeling like I'm seeing the time passing and I'm not doing anything in preparation for future goals, because I don't know what those future goals exactly are. So I think
Oh my
that
god.
I
Hold on.
there's a flying bug. Watch out, there's bugs in the boobs.
I might just leave that in. I
That's
don't
okay. I
care.
think it's funny. Yes. But yeah, so I think for me, I don't really have so much anxiety at work while I'm working, but it's figuring out what my future could look like within the medical fields. I think in the medical field, and seeing what I want to do with that, and not knowing which way to go. So that's where I'm kind of feeling a lot of it now.
I can definitely see you in a leadership role.
Yeah.
So, how do you manage that? Like, how do you start your day? Do you do anything like when you have anxiety? Like, because for me, like, kind of working out and meditation like saves my life, like
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah, my mental health is very, very important to me. I think especially in the field that I work in, high stress situations, and like you said, I carry a lot of other people's emotions and a lot of vulnerability, and I'm again honored to do that. But I recognize the heaviness of that I carry with me because of it, and so I do make a point that my mental health is really important for me. So my mental health care, I'm in therapy once a week, once or twice a week. I'm just started with a new therapist. Actually, super stoked about that. And exercise has been my go-to outlet for refreshing my mind and resetting myself since I was a kid, so I utilize that exponentially, especially now. And then I also discovered a new love for ceramics, and that's been a really therapeutic thing for me to go and work with my hands and create something with my hands so different than what I usually do at work. Something that I realized at work is working in the ICU, I don't see a lot of things come to fruition. Like I see patients get better, hopefully, right? They get better and they leave my unit, but I don't like see them get to go home, right? So I never see what ultimately becomes of them. And so I realized that I needed to do something that I felt like I could see something from start to finish. And that's when I discovered ceramics. And that's been like this new eye opening. I've been doing it for over a year now. I absolutely love it. It's just like a way to work the other side of my brain and do things differently, and work with my hands and get messy. I love to get messy now, and things where like I work in a field where things get a bit messy, but I like things really tidy at work. My rooms are always very, very tidy. So it's nice to just be able to make a mess a little bit and do something different than my normal. So those are like my go-tos to make sure that I am in the best mental health space that I can be for my patients and my peers at work.
And I've seen your plates, and they look very good. I mean,
Thank you.
doing things like that is so relaxing because I recently started
Mhm.
pottery, and like it's just so nice to like sit there and zone out. Like you just put your
Yeah.
headphones in, you make as much mess as you want,
Yeah.
and create things. I mean, I'm not very good at it yet. Like I use so much clay.
You're starting. It's brand new though. You got to start somewhere. It's great.
So you mentioned being a travel nurse for a little bit.
Mhm.
Where has been your favorite place that you've
Ah,
worked so far?
that's interesting. So I worked a few places in New York and a few places in California. I loved the opportunity to go to California because just to get a change of environment, I really enjoyed that. And it was interesting. I was in a hospital that was a non-teaching hospital. I've only ever worked in teaching hospitals, which means that there are resident doctors and interns, so like doctors in training. Whereas at this one non-teaching hospital, the doctors were already through all their training and they were just hospitalists, so they were already working. And it was a different sense of autonomy within, like the nurses were just kind of like told to execute, no questions asked, and they kind of just trusted the doctors because they'd already gone through all their training. Where I was trained and where I usually work is at training hospitals, learning hospitals, where you know the doctors are still learning as well, right? So it's we're learning together. We're having discussions about what plans we should do, and so I'm used to being really involved in the care plan. So that was an interesting opportunity to work in a non-teaching hospital and be the one that like messaged the doctors being like, hey, can you put this order in, because the resident wasn't there to do it. I got to just like do it directly, which was kind of nice to have that autonomy. That's interesting. But yeah, I think I've found a unit in New York that I really love and appreciate working at because of the community and the leadership there. And so I actually left and I ended up coming back because I loved it so much. So I think for like the culture and the people, I love the place that I came back to. But for the new opportunity, the non-teaching hospital in California was a really good experience.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention communities. I feel like every podcast episode I do, everybody always talks about like how important it is to like find their community. You know, I mean, you want to work somewhere that you get along with people and you have good community and you're happy going to work to every day.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have any nurses like listening, or somebody who wants to be in the medical field, what kind of advice would you give them? Like, say, the example, they want to try out travel nursing. How would they find
Mm-hmm.
those roles and like resources?
Yeah, so for travel nursing, it is abundant. It definitely blew up during COVID, so that was a thing because nurses were needed everywhere. They were short staffed. It's a bit different now. I think that a lot of hospital systems have transitioned to focusing on retention, so trying to keep their nurses, which is awesome for the hospital systems. But there are still nursing travel jobs available that I'm aware of. There's a bunch of different agencies. There's small ones that are more local, and there's like really large ones that are they're all like nationwide, and they can help you get your assignment. So if you do just search, travel nursing agency, then you can find that. And what they do is they get you connected. You find an agency that you want to work with, you get connected with a recruiter, and they're the ones that you go through. It's like your assistant kind of helps like make you find the assignments as well as get you set up for the assignments. And there's always support people there, like to help you get new scrubs if you need new scrub colors and things like that. And they're really there to support you to make sure that you can be the best possible nurse at this new assignment. If you are interested in being a travel nurse, I think it's a great opportunity to challenge yourself and put yourself in new situations and new environments and learn to be flexible and malleable and like and go with the flow, because every unit does things differently. They have different system flows, and so learning that I think is really valuable. Just even if you stay travel nursing or not, to bring it back to whatever unit you're in. I think I really gained that and a confidence as well to speak up. When I wanted to give advice or something or feel like something isn't going right. Having the confidence to speak up for that. So that's definitely something that was fun for travel nursing. I think you can do a lot of things with it. You can travel everywhere. So if that's something you're interested in, you usually do like 3-month contracts at a time. And you can go anywhere from a small town in Wyoming to Hawaii to, North Carolina, Florida, anywhere. All states have travel nurses in all different units as well, not just in the ICU. So yeah, there's a lot of options out there if you want to explore different things besides, being a staff nurse somewhere.
I guess as one last question, what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Ooh, my younger self. Wow. Hmm. Um, Trust yourself. I think I wasn't sure and was just kind of like inching in a direction that felt a little more right than what I was doing, but felt a little bit nervous about what that meant. Um, but that was a big thing for me with like knowing the gut feeling that medical school wasn't for me, and like just I wasn't sure, but I'm glad that I did. But continuing to trust myself and my gut feelings, because I know what's best for myself, and sometimes it's not clear, but like my body knows, my mind, my soul knows. So um, that's something that I think for everybody, just trust yourself and listen to yourself.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for this. It was really nice. I actually like got to learn more about you that I
Yeah,
didn't know.
yeah, I love that.
So, well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for listening. Bye.